Today we are going to be talking about Japanese calligraphy and the different styles that you can do. A very basic style is with a nib ink. As is common with most calligraphy, you want to do stroke order. For example, let's use the kanji of meat. So, it's nothing too fancy, nothing too much. Main reason is because of paper. When you're working with calligraphy, not only is the material, the ink, and the brush important, but also is the paper. So keep that in mind. So for something with a nib ink like this, you'd want to have more of a printer paper, if that makes sense, to allow for more ease of access. But for watercolor paper like this, it's nicer for a brush like this that has the ink pre-done. So for example, with the kanji for eyeball, it looks like that. Now granted, that's not the best kanji, but it gets the point across of what the limitations are of this type of ink, this type of calligraphy. Now, the big one that is done is called Sumi-e ink, and when you're working with Sumi ink, we have to use an inkstone and an ink block. Now, when working with an inkstone, it's very important to put a small amount of water in. Just that much. Then you have to firmly hold it and grind in a circle. This is a very long process, very enigmatic. If you try to rush the making of the ink, then the ink itself and the water won't get combined enough, so you'll end up with a lesser grade ink that is more gray for your paper. That consistency looks nice for now. We might need to put some more water in eventually. But then you just scrape it down and add more water. The key to this is you don't want to add too much water, otherwise you're going to lessen your ink. But you don't want to add too little, or you're not going to have enough to actually combine it. See, now I know I added too much water. The consistency does not look right. So this might take longer. When working with an ink and inkstone, you usually want to use circular motions to easily spread out the range and momentum to combine the ink and water again. that process of the ink is done, just simply keep the ink well to the right and actually start working with your different brushes. Now, important thing to keep in mind when you're working with your different brushes is how you hold them. Generally speaking, let's take the standard brush that you're going to use. This is what a standard brush for the size of paper will look like. It has a thick end, which allows for nice open spots, and it's generally nice to have. So you want to put your hand around the middle. Elbow is important to have postured, helps with work with it. Then what I generally do is to get the bristles loosen up, just to put a small bit of water in it, break it. Do that a few times until it seems nice. Now, add out the water so that doesn't mix with the ink. Just do it with the ink. Now, conjure we will be trying to write is snake. You want your elbow to be up, your posture to be straight, otherwise it can't affect slow, precise movements. You can tell with the color of the ink that I did not mix it well enough. So in cases like this, simply put our brush down and go back to mixing. When doing Sumi-e ink, you shouldn't expect for a quick process. It's more of an experience. Long, arbitrary one. A good way to practice stroke before making sure that the ink is raw is just do the stroke for one. Generally speaking, you want an ink that's this color when working with water paper. Keynote to that notice is watercolor paper is not the most ideal for working with Sumi ink. You would want rice paper. The reason why is because the shades don't come out that well when you're doing a singular stroke. To make up for that, we use different types of prime brushes. This one has a more smaller, smooth end. We do the same process as before to make up the bristles, so it doesn't take too much. And then we can add detail, which is what you would usually have been done if working with good paper. We'll repeat that process of just drying and waiting until you see a noticeable texture at the end of it done. Although for today, we won't be doing that. We'll simply be going over the different brushes. Sumi ink can be used for more than just writing kanji though, calligraphy. It's often used when drawing. Good example with the bamboo. Simply do the same process as before. Too much paint on that. Do a stroke down. Then, that was not good, but it's a learning practice, as is everything. You want a thick stroke at the beginning, small stroke, going into another thick one at the end. Then, you want to have a small stroke at the beginning. That is better, but it can still work better. To finish this, we will finish with the kanji for snake, which was started over here. We will be using a different brush. That's a smaller version of the big brush. It does nothing much other than allow for smaller calligraphy in Sumi ink. So repeat the process again. And we write. Oh, there's not enough ink on that. I messed that up. See, I'm rushing, and that's the problem. When you're working with Sumi ink, you want it to be nice and slow. Never mind, we're going back to the big brush. Now, that doesn't look too good, but trust me, with enough practice and time, eventually you can do works that look more like this. Granted, you won't be seeing as much change in color as you would want to with Sumi ink, and that's because of the watercolor paper. Thank you for coming to my presentation.